What's up gamers, Cryptigo here, and welcome back to Lowering the Mark, a show where I analyze the current and former world records of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe time trial runs to see how these records get faster over time. We'll look at elements such as the loadout, racing lines, and mushroom usage to better understand what's bringing these times down. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel and hit the notification bell to be the first to know when my videos go live. For today's episode, we're staying over here on the Wii and taking a look at another classic track from 2008, Wario's Gold Mine at 150cc. On April 28, 2017, the world record for this run was set at 2 minutes 5.674 seconds by the Japanese player Bixo. Fast forward to the end of last year on October 22, 2021, and the record was brought down to 2 minutes 2.542 seconds by the Australian player Panda. That's a 3.1 second improvement between records and a 2.4% faster time. Our former world record holder Bixo has broken 21 world records across 7 unique runs, but has only spent 4 days holding at least one world record. Our current world record holder Panda has broken over 220 world records across 29 unique runs and is closing in on his 1000th day holding at least one of his 11 current world records. At pre-release, this world record was just under 207, and within a couple days, English player Sean emerged as the main guy bringing the record down. He would fend off a few different Japanese players on his way down to 203 territory and continued his dominance thereafter. 14 of the next 19 records came from Sean, which included this 203.58 that would become the first record on this course to last for more than 1 month. Japanese player Frog stepped back in and beat Sean's time, to which he responded with 6 more records of his own to shut out his competitor for another 200 days. Now in March of 2018, Japanese player Light beat Sean's time, and Kai would bring the record down further shortly after that. English players Velocity and Ryans each brought the record down a bit, resulting in the record now being at 202. Super Effects joined in around January of 2019 and dropped 6 consecutive records, including this 202.68 that stood as the record for over 470 days. Now in the middle of 2020, Frog came back and took the record back, lasting for just over 400 days. Now in June of 2021, Dutch player Stur took over the course and brought the record down by another tenth of a second. Then 29 days later, Panda swooped in and took the record for himself. In total, the record was broken 86 times by 15 different players. These loadouts have a few components that you rarely see used in time trials, but they all work together to produce similar performance. Bixo goes with the combo of Morton driving the W25 with the Crimson Slims and the MKTV parafoil glider. Panda goes with the Heavy Me character driving the Splat Buggy with the Slim Wheels and the Wario Wing glider. Right off the bat, we see some unusual developments. It's actually Panda who has a much higher top speed, while Bixo holds the slight advantages in acceleration, handling, and mini-turbo stats. I know we talk big game about those being the most important stats, but as you're about to see, Wario's Gold Mine isn't one that benefits all that much from those longer lasting mini-turbos, so Panda going with a faster loadout here makes quite a bit of sense. This track is pretty decent, but it can feel a tad congested before you get into the mine at times. Other than that, the layout is good and the competition is always good. As a time trial, it can come off as boring since there's no viable gap jump, but at the very least, it's interesting to see how precise some of these racing lines are. Let's dive into it. Bixo hits a rocket start out of the gate before bearing right and grabbing this quick mini turbo before the drop. Once he comes back up, he'll chain a normal and super mini turbo around the next turn to close out S1. Panda uses his first mushroom right as the race starts and also bears right for the quick mini turbo. After coming back out of the drop, he chains the same 2 mini turbos and fits in this low jump boost before the end of the section. Both racers went about S1 pretty similarly, but it's obvious that Panda's already got an early lead on Bixo thanks to that early mushroom and extra jump boost. His lead sits at over 7/10 of a second going into S2. Bixo stays on this really strict line as he enters the mine and uses his first mushroom upon doing so. After that, he'll chain 2 normal mini turbos on these next 2 turns before reaching the zipper ramp at the end of the section. Panda pretty much does the exact same thing, but without the use of a mushroom on a slightly better line than Bixo. Now that both players have had an opportunity to use a mushroom, you'd think that for how similarly they are driving that they would be dead even after 2 sections. Well, like you are about most things, you're wrong. Panda's lead didn't really drop by that much, and he has his better lines and higher top speed to thank for that. So far this course has mostly been back straights, and that's where he excels with this loadout. Panda's lead now sits at 6/10 of a second going into S3. S3 for both racers is really identical. Both of them hit this jump boost and bear slightly right for this next quick mini turbo. Bixo just chains another one after, but Panda is fast enough to hit this spin booster as he chains another mini turbo, after which both racers chain another normal mini turbo and stay on an incredibly strict line all the way up to this final turn, at which point both racers grab a mini turbo and jump boost to come flying across the finish line. Now, Panda's lead jumped up by a lot this section, but not just because of that spin booster. Broken record here, but it all comes back to that higher top speed and better racing lines from Panda. Wario's gold mine is just that course, and we're watching that guy put on an incredible display of precision thus far. Panda's lead now sits at over a second after one lap. Bixo drifts into lap 2 for an additional mini turbo before chaining another one just before the drop. After that, he chains the same normal and super mini turbo around the next turn before getting back on that strict line to close out S1. Panda is also drifting into lap 2 for that additional mini turbo, and he'll also chain another one just before the drop. Once he comes out of it, he'll actually use his mushroom here as he starts another drift chain. After that, he just gets the same jump boost but cuts off more of that turn than he did on lap 1 to close out S1. Just like before, we see Panda use a mushroom again, which inflates his lead by a lot over Bixo, but there are also a few other things he did to increase that lead. One in particular is that jump boost we just saw. His lead now sits at over 1.7 seconds at the end of S1. S2 on lap 2 looks pretty similar with one key difference. As both racers approach the mine, Bixo uses his second mushroom upon entering and then, with Panda, chains those two normal mini turbos before the ramp at the end. Nothing too special here, it's basically what we saw on lap 1, and we know that Panda's lead did drop off a little bit, but he's still chilling with his 1.6 second lead at the end of S2. After tricking off the ramp, Bixo bears right again and chains these three mini turbos through the winding minecart rails. After that, he's back on that strict line up until the final turn where he'll grab another mini turbo and jump boost to close out lap 2. Panda also gets the jump boost and bears right for this first mini turbo, but he doesn't get the second one right after. He just hops over to realign for this next mini turbo he'll get before the next drop. Once he comes out of that, we notice the same strict line, mini turbo, and jump boost through the final turn. Now through 2 laps, we've seen Panda build a pretty decent lead thanks to his more optimized line and faster driving through the many long straightaways this track offers. He now sits ahead of Bixo by over 2.1 seconds after outsplitting him on this lap by 1 second. Bixo's final lap goes a little something like this. He gets that first mini turbo after crossing the line and chains another one to that just before the drop. After that, he chains another normal and super mini turbo through these next 2 turns. Upon entering the mine on an incredibly strict line and using his final mushroom, he chains these 2 normal mini turbos before tricking off the zipper ramp. Once he lands, he starts this 3 mini turbo drift chain through the winding rails before the final drop. Upon coming out of that, he drifts for the final mini turbo and jump boost as he comes across the finish line. Panda also starts his final lap with a quick mini turbo before chaining another one to that just before the drop. As he comes out of the drop, he'll use his final mushroom to grab that quick mini turbo and chain another one with a jump boost to that to close out S1. Now in S2, on that same strict line, he chains the same 2 normal mini turbos through this first set of rails before hitting this jump boost at the end. Once he lands, he'll edge grind for this mini turbo and then jump out of that back onto his straight line before grabbing another mini turbo before the final drop. After that, he'll hit one last mini turbo jump boost combo before crossing the finish line. His final time would end up being 3.1 seconds faster than Bixo's former world record. So by staying on a slightly better line and having higher top speed, Panda was able to just barely unseat Stir as the world record holder and bring the time back to Australia. This run is definitely all about the lines, and Panda displayed amazing control for those entire 2 minutes he was driving. I got the chance to speak with him about the record, so let's hear what he had to say. What was going through your mind when you broke this world record?
Once I crossed the line and saw the final time, I was very satisfied to have gotten the world record.
Why did you use your second and third mushroom as you came up from the drop just a few seconds into the lap?
Using a shroom here allows me to chain the mini turbo on the following turn out of the drop.
Do you believe this course has reached its max world record with the best known sum time of 202.3, or can it go a little bit further down than that?
I don't think that's the max. This record can for sure go down further.
Thanks for jumping in for a much needed Q&A. Good luck on improving this record further. The best known splits for this run show that this record has become pretty optimized over time. Panda, however, has no stake in the best known sum time. The fastest lap 1 belongs to Mizuzo, and the fastest final 2 laps belong to Stir. when comparing to Panda's world record splits, we notice he opens and closes the race on pretty similar splits to those best known laps. Right in the middle though, that's where he's the furthest away from that time and could improve the most. Another second break is far from likely to happen, but 10th breaks are the next best thing. A 0.5 is not a 0.4, which is not a 0.3, and that's where the real flex comes into play. There's a free 10th of a second up for grabs, and it honestly could be grabbed by anyone who knew the course well enough. The worldwide top 10 consists of 7 national and 4 continental record holders. Panda sits at the top, just a hair behind him in second is Dutch record holder Stur, and Asian record holder Vino rounds out our top 3. 4th through 6th place share just under a 10th of a second in separation and include players such as Super Effects, Fuguwu, and Pi. Rounding out the top 10, separated by 8/100ths of a second, is Alberto, Jobo, Asa, and Ryans. It's pretty obvious that the main competition on this track lies at the 1 and 2 spots on this board. Stur, for a short while, had this record on lock, but Panda swooped in and took just barely enough time off of it to become the world record holder. Now that nearly 300 days have gone by with zero challenge from Stur, you'd wonder if this is Panda's record to keep for even longer, or if someone else is slowly creeping up the board trying to take over. We really don't know either way. That's all for episode 83. Hope you found it interesting. Shout out to Panda for coming on for a quick Q&A. Hope to see more of you soon. If you enjoyed this video, like and share it with your friends and comment on which course you'd like me to analyze next. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.